Aloha, everyone. It's Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, and this is episode 613. I'm Jyunmi, and joining me today is Andy. We're going to talk about all of today's AI headlines and then connect them to the bigger picture of how AI is reshaping work, government, and infrastructure, and bring in your questions and reactions along the way. This is the Daily AI Show. All right, Andy. Let's start off with some news from you. What do you got?
Well, I think the important one is that there is a company in Japan called Integral.ai, which has just laid claim to AGI. Yes, and so let me share my screen here. I want to show you what their website looks like here. Give me a second while I pull this up. But it's a compelling argument in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they haven't demonstrated any particular model that has, beaten all the benchmarks and exceeded all human capacities. Can you put that on the screen? There we go. The first AGI capable model is their claim. And in effect, what they're saying is, in order for it to be AGI, it has to be a machine intelligence that can do everything that an individual human could do to teach itself and accomplish human level capabilities without dependence on human data or human reinforcement, etc. So they provide a more, what they consider to be a precise definition of AGI, which is autonomous skill learning. It must independently teach itself new skills in novel domains without human intervention. So it's on its own. It has to have safe and reliable mastery. It must learn without unintended side effects or huge failures. Okay. And finally, it has to be done in a way that the total energy cost of learning is comparable to or less than that of a human mastering the same skill. So achieving truly human-like behavior in self-improvement effectively. And now they've built a platform which they say does exactly this. So a very interesting claim. I'm curious to find out just what they're offering. When this is just so you can all look at it yourself and read this very interesting page that I'm sharing with you. It's at integral.ai/AGI. So if you go to just integral.ai, there's not clean navigation to this announcement and to the claims about AGI. You have to do this /AGI extension on it. Once you get into integral.ai, they have a bunch of other product and services in the AI realm that aren't specifically about this AGI capable model. All right. So that's my first tidbit of news.
Gotcha. Yeah, what's interesting about that is I noticed the qualifiers, right? The model is potentially capable of AGI and how they define it. Though I found the energy efficiency part. That seems to be the most interesting thing to me because it's not just a matter of can they just throw more at something. It's more on individual capacity and things like that. So I thought that was really cool to highlight. Okay. Well, I've got a couple of news stories myself. Let's see here. Number one, let's see what we got here. We've got a story coming out of a combination of joining forces, if you will, of Anthropic, the Linux Foundation, and a new organization called the Agentic AI Foundation. So,
well, don't hesitate to mention that the principles for this are OpenAI, Anthropic, and Block, which is the creator of Square, right? That's the public company name of the company that has Square, which is a payments platform, but also is very AI forward. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that those three players are the ones that have really kind of staked the flag here on the Agentic AI Foundation.
For sure, for sure. And it's not just them, it's pretty much everybody's got a hand in it, right? So the Linux Foundation has launched the Agentic AI Foundation, or the AAIF. It's going to act as a neutral home for open standards and open source projects focused on AI agents. Um, so for our listeners who don't know, agentic AI means AI systems that can decide and act on a user's behalf, not just answer questions. Founding technical contributions include Anthropic's MCP, or Model Context Protocol. And it's an open way for AI apps to plug into tools and data sources. We've talked about MCP often on the show. Uh, from Block, they're offering up Goose, an open AI coding agent, and OpenAI's agents.md, a simple format that describes how a coding agent should work with a given code base. Major backers include AWS, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Anthropic, IBM, Salesforce, Bloomberg, and Cloudflare. The foundation's pitch is that shared protocols for how agents talk to tools, repos, and each other will make it easier to build reliable, interoperable systems similar to how web and email standards made the early internet usable. Wired and other outlets note that this also gives US and allied firms a way to coordinate an open structure as Chinese labs push powerful open models of their own. So, why does this matter? If the AAIF succeeds, the plumbing of AI agents could become much more standardized, which would lower integration pain, make safety tools reusable, and reduce the risk that one vendor's closed ecosystem dominates how agents work. Now, for me, anytime that we invest in open source and open protocols in particular, that's just going to help uh, growth, get us over a bunch of speed bumps in the road, and it tends to be overall a good thing, especially when things are built to talk to each other effectively. One of the organizations that's been around forever is the IEEE, and this is the electric engineering group, and they're the ones who put all the standards for the hardware side. So they're the ones who help come up with the various wireless protocols so that everyone can make their own Wi-Fi device and have them all worked with each other. Put those radios in your phone and other things. So having an open standards body to govern over that and help smooth that over is overall a really good thing for the industry and the technologies and people getting their hands on and availability and things like that. Okay, Andy, what do you got?
Well, I want to just add a few points about that one. So the founding members of this Agentic AI Foundation have contributed these technologies as standardized platforms for that. And MCP, we've heard a lot about, but I don't think we've heard much about Goose, which is what Block is delivering into this partnership. And we haven't heard about agents.md. So let me just give a little explainer about first what agents.md is. So in GitHub, if you go to a code repository there's a read.md file, and that's a standard. Every single GitHub repo has read.md in it. And that's like this guide to what's in this repository. And yet, and you know, as a standard, you should create a read.md file, readme.md file. I'm saying it wrong. So that you can, when someone else comes along, they can read quickly about what's going on in that repository. Well, agents.md is OpenAI's idea for a readme.md file for agents. So an agent coming across a coding repository, and remember, all of these standards and so on are really kind of being formed around the primary use case for agentic AI right now, which is coding. But eventually it'll kind of branch out to all kinds of roaming agents out there on the interwebs, as we say. And so these have more generalizable application, but the form and standards that are being created are really around coding at this point. And so that's why the last piece, Goose, is relevant, because Goose is an agentic vibe coding capability that's completely local. So it's running all on your local device. It doesn't actually interact with the cloud in any way other than through MCP. And it's agentic, meaning it's a coding system that can go out and access tools via MCP, but none of its logic or its brains, if you will, are actually, consulting a cloud-based AI. So those are the three components. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on what's forming there. This is a very important announcement, and it's I think culminating the year of agents, as we wanted to call it. And so, at the very end of 2025, when agents have really become central to our use, and I use an agent, GenSpark, every day. It really is, the new model for me for a really broadly capable and action-oriented assistant. Well, now at the end of this year of agents, we have a new standard that's formed out there, and a new organization to move forward with the development of agents that will be useful to you in many, many ways in the coming years.
Yeah, I am excited, and yeah, I definitely want to make a point on that, is the importance of having these moved into the open source. So that means in clear terms, what that means is all of this is going to be available to be built into any new apps or services. So, and the fact that those three components that you laid out are all significant pieces to that, to that capability of being able to integrate. So it sounds exciting. Now we can hope and dream that we'll see that we'll see what comes out of that really real soon. Now let's see. I do have a few more stories here. I think the next one is something that we should cover, and that's GenAI.mil. So the U.S. Defense Department has launched GenAI.mil, a new internal website that gives about 3 million military and civilian staff access to generative AI tools, starting with Google Cloud's Gemini for Government. GenAI.mil is a secure portal where people with a Defense Department access card can log in and use AI to search documents, summarize policy handbooks, create checklists, and analyze imagery or video for planning and training. Gemini for Government will run in Impact Level 5, a U.S. defense security standard for sensitive but unclassified data. The Pentagon is pitching this as both an administrative helper and a competitive move in the global race for military AI, with leaders saying that they are pushing all of our chips in on AI as a fighting force. Google stresses that the data from GenAI.mil will stay in a sovereign cloud and will not be used to train public models. Training programs will teach personnel how to use the tool safely and reduce AI hallucinations by grounding responses in web search and defense data. So why does this matter? This is one of the clearest examples yet of a major military pushing generative AI into day-to-day workflows at a huge scale, while trying to balance speed, security, and ethics in a politically sensitive setting. So this looks like just the latest step in the government and military's implementation of AI in their various departments. We've talked about in the past, they recently had their big project rollout. This is the next step in that, where all the federal agencies would be interconnected and sharing information and have AI tools available to it. And now this is the military implementation. I noticed that primarily this is all talking about administrative tasks and day-to-day work kind of tasks. and not so much on the Anduril or Palantir side. But we'll see how that'll be implemented in the future.
Great. So now for my next little tidbit. Recently, DeepSeek, the whale over in China, has released their newest model, V3.2, and they make the claim that their V3.2 model Speciale that's the highest level of sort of reasoning and thinking model that they offer. It has beaten Gemini 3.0 Pro on numerous benchmarks. And so I wanted to talk about qualifications on that claim. But the first thing to note is that they accomplished this pretty state-of-the-art, not state-of-the-art in terms of being the gold medal winner on any of these benchmarks, but they achieved this with a new technology that they've put forward called sparse attention. So as you know, in transformer models, the attention mechanism is what makes it possible for you to throw just any kind of text, all these words, many of which are, in human language, not that important, all the ands, thus, and is, and all those things, those can be ignored to a large degree. And the attention mechanisms determine which tokens are actually important to the reasoning task that's there. Well, sparse attention uses this concept of, cutting back the total number of tokens that are necessary by selectively using the ones that have the most import to the inference process. So the new sparse attention, DeepSeek sparse attention, they call it that, is an advanced attention mechanism that selectively prioritizes relevant input data in your prompt. So it reduces computational overhead and maintains high accuracy across longer context, because obviously if you can compress to the most relevant using selective sparse attention, then you can put a much larger prompt through that gives you a larger context delivery by the user. And then if you can maintain accuracy and reasoning across that longer context, that's improvement in your performance. So it allows the model to process large data sets efficiently, and it allows for larger context. But they're claiming that they beat Gemini 3.0 Pro, but they didn't beat Gemini 3.0 Pro thinking. Okay, so they're saying, oh, here, our thinking model, the Speciale model, beats Gemini 3.0 Pro. Well, yeah, okay, it does beat that marginally, but still the state of the art is currently Gemini 3.0 Pro thinking. Okay, so you give Gemini 3.0 Pro just a little more budget, not using a sparse attention mechanism that we know of necessarily, but you give it a little more budget for thinking, and it is clearly the winner that way. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting, this sparse attention approach. It's a concept that's being used in many ways, especially in the context of mixture of experts models, where the sparsity is you're going to activate only those areas of the model that are relevant experts to the process of inference for the prompt that's been given. So making things more efficient, generally speaking, and DeepSeek has moved that forward. Not to cut down DeepSeek, they're really an amazing open source model and being used widely in enterprise in the United States and around the world as the foundation model for any kind of fine tuning and creation of a customized LLM that's operating in the enterprise context.
Right. And their efficiency in generating new models and all of that. And I was going to say, when you said, not as good as, 3.0 thinking, it's like, for now. So next week, there's rumors floating around OpenAI is going to release something, and then something in January and all this kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. Probably while we're talking, they're going to
there'll be a new release. That's right.
Right. Exactly. I I find it interesting that they're able to come up with this sparse system, because that seems to be on the that seems to be after ingestion and part of this process. Because I recently heard about something called Tune. I don't know enough about it yet, but apparently it's a process of cleaning up the input tokens. So I wonder if working with various efficiency technologies or features, we can even see a more efficient output and things like that. Okay. Here's a story out of South Korea that dropped today, and I thought it was interesting because it's on a national effort. So South Korea will require advertisers to clearly label any ads created with artificial intelligence starting next year, in response to a surge of misleading promotions that use AI manipulated images and videos. Officials say many of these ads feature deepfakes, which are AI generated images or video that makes real people appear to say or do things they never did. The problem ranges from fake celebrities endorsing weight loss products to fabricated medical experts pushing unimproved treatments, often targeting older people who may struggle to spot AI made content. Under the new rules, anyone who creates, edits, or posts AI generated promotional photos or videos will have to include an AI label, and platforms will be banned from removing those labels. Regulators plan faster takedowns, higher fines, and closer coordination with consumer and drug safety agencies. The move follows a high-profile abuse case where AI-altered sexual images were used for blackmail, including one case that led to a life sentence. At the same time, South Korea continues to invest heavily in AI chips and 5G networks, so policymakers frame this as an attempt to balance innovation with basic consumer protection. So why does this matter? This is one of the clearest national attempts to treat AI-made ads as a distinct risk category and puts responsibility both on the people making the content and the platforms hosting it. So, I found this interesting because it's a national effort, right? Right. Here in the U.S., it's been a focus on allowing the platforms themselves to do some self-regulation, and then general regulation on the state and federal level has been, back and forth on that discussion. And then I think we've only seen the EU come out with any hard AI protections law on the books. So this is South Korea taking a moment to put their stamp in the AI regulation space. Oh, and I've completely frozen. Sorry about that. Andy, please give us your next story there.
Okay, I'm going to move on to another story. I've often wondered, why is it that billionaires, in like the case of Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, are so focused on rockets and Mars and putting things up in space? Well, now we can see why the purveyors of AI are so interested in having their own rocket fleets. And that is because there's a number of companies now, including Google, that are building space-based AI systems and putting those into low Earth orbit, like the Starlink satellite system that is a communication platform. But you can imagine, this being meshed together in such a way that there's an artificial intelligence component to it. And China has already launched operational space AI systems, including a 12-satellite constellation that has built into it an 8 billion parameter AI model. And they have plans for a megawatt scale orbit data center by 2035. So within the next 10 years. And that their plans in 2035 say that their space-based array of AI systems will be in excess of the capacity of their ground-based computing capacity. All right, so this kind of puts it into perspective. There was a longer range strategic understanding that, hey, we're going to need to use space in the coming technology ages that are powered by AI, and those AIs powered by the sun, which is where we get all of our energy ultimately, right? So anyway, space-based AI data centers, we've talked about those briefly. They're also talking about putting the AI itself, like the actual models running in those data centers, into space and beyond. So now we know why are Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk spending all their time dreaming about rockets or flying on them. It's because of this. It actually makes sense at some level strategically to have that capability associated with your AI plans.
Right. And I recently heard that one of the reasons why SpaceX is pushing forward another funding round is exactly for that, is for the data centers. So they're trying to really beef up the Starlink constellation to handle the data throughput and bandwidth that's needed for those data centers up in space. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Okay. Here is a quick story about more about AI infrastructure, and this is Microsoft. So Microsoft is planning a new wave of artificial intelligence spending worth about $23 billion, with $17.5 billion earmarked for India and the rest committed to Canada. The 4-year plan, starting in 2026, is meant to expand Microsoft's cloud data centers, build specialized AI infrastructure, and support a sovereign AI strategy, meaning each country keeps more control over how its data and models are handled. In India, Microsoft plans a major new hyperscale data center in Hyderabad and expansions in Chennai, Hyderabad, and Pune. Along with a pledge to train 20 million people in AI skills by 2030. In Canada, the company will invest more than 7.5 billion Canadian dollars over 2 years as part of a large $19 billion package that boosts local cloud capacity and deepens a partnership with AI startup Cohere. The move comes as Amazon and Google also commit tens of billions of dollars to AI infrastructure in India, turning the country into a key battleground for cloud and AI platforms. Analysts note that this investment rush is happening along growing worries about a possible AI infrastructure bubble and whether real productivity gains will match the capital outlay. So why does this matter? This is a story about where AI power will physically live, who controls the sovereign AI stacks, and which countries get the long-term job skills and bargaining power in the cloud era. So I found this little bit of news interesting because the news that we tend to get is all the push that's either happening in the US AI infrastructure with programs like Stargate and things like that, or all of the open source models like DeepSeek coming out of China. But it's interesting to see how these companies are also investing in infrastructure globally and seeing that their plans are not just a single country or region-based plan. And then we'll also see how those countries or regions will have how this improves or solidifies their own AI stakes. And so all this news about sovereign AI really just comes out of what was talked about, we'll say months ago, where the idea that every country will need their own sovereign AI system or their system models and things like that to help their country or on a national level compete or move forward on their productivity, their planning, and just running all of their facilities and departments. So it does look like everything is full steam ahead, and having having those investments in India does seem to align with a lot of the push in the software development side of things over the last couple of decades. That India's always been a country that's produced lots of technology and technological savvy and skilled people, and then having our neighbor in Canada have their investment, because Cohere is one of the larger scalar AI companies out there, and so seeing that partnership build up is pushes forward those agendas and things like that as well. All right.
So I'm going to weave off of your reference to the AI bubble and the disparity between the scale of investment that's being made in the development of AI capacity and the actual demand for that capacity. And I came across something that really kind of stuck with me, which is a simple explanation for why jobs are really at risk, and that the AI bubble is potentially responsible for this. But here's the reframing of it that I think is really challenging intellectually, which is the real bubble we should be concerned about is not the AI bubble. That is, whether AI is really all that and going to make that big a difference. It's the labor bubble that we have been living in and dependent on for centuries. And here's the quote that I'm going to give you. Companies only hire people because they can't get all the work done themselves. If every founder or manager could handle all of the tasks themselves, there wouldn't be anywhere near the number of jobs we have today. The only reason the current labor market exists is because there's a group of owners, founders, managers who need help producing their goods and services. These people aren't required to hire anyone. And the moment they can do the work themselves, they will. Now that's the bubble, right? If you stretch the AI bubble that we talk about is a bubble that's going to, possibly pop and cause a downturn in the markets for AI valuations for a very short period of time. The bubble of labor has been going on for centuries and centuries, right? Starting with slavery, and then and I'm not talking about U.S. domestic slavery. I'm talking about Egyptian slavery, and go as far back as you like, but couldn't get the pyramids done ourselves, so we got a whole bunch of people enslaved to do it. But as soon as technology advances to the point where you don't have to depend on other people for that, because machine intelligence and machines together, given the resource exploitation that you're capable of with those capabilities, you're not going to hire people anymore. So that's the real bubble. It's been the labor bubble, and we've enjoyed it, or not so much if you don't like to work. But anyway, I thought that really captured it for me. Like, let's not pretend that there isn't. Right. Let's not listen to the crap about, there's always going to be a rightful and honorable place for humans in this environment. Yes, there will be for a very few, but there's not going to be the number of jobs that used to be. At least that's my conclusion from this quote.
Right. I think that's an interesting framework or facet or perspective to look at it, is because because it kind of encapsulates the thinking behind the workforce and job market and things like that, is if they don't have to, then they won't, right? So yeah, and yeah, I'm my gears are turning on that right now. That's an interesting perspective to look at it, because it
so does. I was a great beneficiary of the sort of the upper levels of the pyramid of the labor bubble, right? and managed to get in underneath the wire where the labor bubble is likely to pop.
Okay. Let's see here. I do have a couple more stories. And I think the last one I'll leave it on is, or the last one I've got is a quick story from IBM. So we haven't, or I haven't heard too much of IBM in the AI space, other than their Watson and in the deep hardware and software solutions that they offer. But IBM has agreed to acquire Confluent. It's a data streaming company built around Apache Kafka, and an all-cash deal that values Confluent at about $11 billion. Data streaming is the practice of moving and processing data as a continuous flow rather than in slow batches. IBM says the goal is to create a smart data platform that connects, governs, and delivers real-time data to applications and AI agents running across hybrid cloud environments. The deal is IBM's largest since Red Hat in 2019 and continues its pivot towards software automation and generative AI services under CEO Arvind Krishna. Confluent has been growing revenue but remains unprofitable. IBM is betting that integrating Confluent with its data fabric, WatsonX.ai stack, and consulting arm will both improve margins and make it easier for enterprises to wire up operational data to Gen AI copilots and agents. Analysts see the move as a strong strategic fit, but note execution risk and the challenge of retaining Confluent's developer community inside a much larger company. So why does this matter? This acquisition underlines that generative and agentic AI are only as good as the data plumbing beneath them, and that the AI stack now includes everything from chips to real-time event streams. So what made this interesting to me was that, like I said, IBM as a major player on the enterprise side, they've always been in that realm, are creating or trying to make key moves to keep those enterprise processes going. So while NVIDIA and other hardware companies might be making the shovels and pickaxes, IBM wants to make or the list in this move seems to want to make the roads and provide, let's say, to keep the analogy going, the gas stations for enterprise along those roads. So we'll see if this plays out for IBM. Now they are fairly entrenched in the enterprise level, so having the Watson X AI capabilities plus this agentic back end, and of course their own hardware systems, might make a clean offering or package for larger enterprises for implementation. So this seems like a logical move for them. And then, of course, hearing from them only once every 3 or 6 months is so it should make it significant. All right, Andy, do you have any other news?
I do. I have one last one myself. I want to talk about AI hardware. So earlier I shared, I think on Monday, I shared that I had received the Halliday glasses, which are these. These are, intending to compete with the Meta Ray-Ban and Meta Oakley, and there's a number of others out there that are playing in that AI hardware accessory space. And I explained how this one was really unsatisfying because it didn't provide for voice interaction with the agent, the assistant that's built into it, and it was limited to the not very proficient agent, the AI assistant, the LLM that Halliday provides, that is not as good as Gemini or ChatGPT or even Meta. So if you have the Meta Ray-Bans, you're talking to a very competent agent, but it's a Meta assistant that you're talking to. I shouldn't say agent. I should say assistant in this case, because you're not going to be able to get the Ray-Bans to do much action for you on the web. Okay, so one of the components of the Halliday system is this ring that you see here. I'm going to hold it up a little closer to the camera. It's a really nicely organized ring, and you wear it on your index finger like this. to control the display inside the glasses. Now there's a little, you can see right here, you see there's that little projector that projects this green circular display directly into my eye. And I can read that pretty well. I was able to adjust the glasses and get it done. And then, I found it really, really cumbersome to try to use this little trackpad that's on the ring. And it was slow. There was latency. I'd click it and nothing would happen. And then I'd be swiping around and trying to get something to happen. And then I'd have to start over again. And it was a mess. Well, so I wanted to show you the idea of the ring and just talk about smart rings that exist out there right now and a new ring that's just been announced that takes a totally different approach to this. And I'll explain that in a moment. But generally speaking, smart rings are these ones that have the ability to track your health stats, and they can do something in integration with your phone, and they have sensors in them. There's one called Aura or something, I think, that gives you, it's like a mood ring thing. Well, anyway, all of that makes for, the requirement that the ring be rechargeable. And you can see there's a little charging port on the back of this ring there. And so this has to be charged frequently in order to just maintain this coordination with the holiday glasses. That's not very effective. Okay. Out comes something called the Index 01. And it's named Index, of course, because you're supposed to wear it on your index finger like this in order to allow your thumb to be in position to press the activator. But it takes a totally different approach. And instead of being a smart ring, it's a dumb ring. Okay. And this ring has only one function. You press and record a voice note that gets then transcribed by your phone app on the Index 01 phone app and added to notes. Okay, so you can add it to notes out of the box, and I use notes every day. In fact, to decide what I'm going to actually talk about on this show, I use the Notes application within the Mac OS, which is also on iOS, right? So, and it syncs between those two. So I can be, if I come across something during the day, I can add it to my Notes app on the phone, and it shows up on my Mac OS version of Notes. It's synced. So that's really convenient. So I use Notes every day. Well, this Index 01 ring that's coming out will be like this one, but the only thing it has in it is a microphone, a hearing aid battery. You never charge it, but it's advertised to be good for a couple of years, a total of 14 hours of recording, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're just doing like a 15-second voice note, 14 hours, that probably stretches out over, at least a year or so. And it's only $75 right now, and it'll be $99 when it goes off of its initial promotion. But you're not gonna, recharge it. You just have to toss it out and get a new one. But all it does is record a voice note. But you can, in its integration with the Notes application, you can also ask it to set a reminder for you in your calendar. You can create an alarm, and you can create a timer. It also says you can play, pause, and skip your music application if you want to. But I think that the primary use is limited, and it's about doing voice recording notes without having to pull out your phone, open up the application, and so on. It's just click the ring, and I imagine you're supposed to wear it and buy a size that's going to be fitting all the way down, not holding it like this, but all the way down on the sort of the root of your index finger.
Right.
And so this is a user experience design issue, and one that I think that they've taken a good approach about, which is, let's not do everything with our AI hardware. Let's just do one little thing. By the way, there's an LLM interceding in between those things in order to clean up your voice recording and do all those notes, just like WhisperFlow does, right? I'm not going to claim that their version is going to do it as well as WhisperFlow.
Right.
But WhisperFlow is that. It's an LLM that listens to your audio and then does a really nice job cleaning it up and packaging it in order to make it presentable as a text version of that note. All right. So that's the hardware segment for the morning.
I think there's an interesting play here with that. Number one, the pricing's good. So anyone who just likes the new hardware tech gadgets, that makes it easier for them to try it out. I like the focus on the one aspect. Now, just for clarity, I think I missed it. The app, is it their app that it connects to, or is it the Notes app on your phone?
No, they have an app and an LLM built into that application. A very small LLM, right? Okay.
Right.
But yeah, it has a coordination with your phone. So it's not useful unless you have your phone with you. But again, it's just a ring. It's like, that's all. It's not going to connect to anything else except via Bluetooth to your phone.
Well, what I'm thinking in my head already is number one, this kind of reminds me, I think it's called Plaid or Plod or whatnot. There's a device that you would just put on you. It would connect to the back of your phone.
I know what you mean.
Right?
Cloud, Plaud.
Yeah.
I think that's
and
right.
that's supposed to record, your conversations and all that kind of stuff too for note taking. So it kind of reminds me of that. But that still needs your phone. What I'm imagining for this next step for the Ring is, because you mentioned Whisper, I think it'd be really interesting to just, this is now the interface. So I don't have to have a microphone to talk to, connected to my computer, or, just speak into that way. I can speak into the Ring, and then I can connect it to, let's say, larger local LLMs on my computer or cloud LLMs, having that interconnection so I can just walk and talk and, and take notation and dictation and all that kind of stuff for that.
So
I think
so let me answer a quick question from the chat stream, which is Halliday, my last name, a reference to the character in Ready Player One? And yes, the Halliday company that made these glasses is a Singaporean company, and it is it clearly shows that they named the company after James Halliday in the Ready Player One book. And I'm glad they did that. Well, maybe not so much, because Halliday is not a common, name. It's spelled this way anyway. And I was sucked into buying these glasses simply because they named it with my last name. And anyway,
hey,
it's not going to be one of my better.
I totally get it. If someone came out with some AI hardware and called it the Jyunmi, I'd have to pay attention to it. Right?
Yeah, I had to buy it. So.
Yeah. Hopefully the next version will be even better. And that way you're already a built-in spokesperson for it.
I don't think they're going to be giving me any special consideration given the reviews I've provided thus far.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next segment, when AI starts designing undruggable medicines. All right. Before I do that, if you've been enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, and click the bell so that you do not miss any future episodes. And of course, continue the conversation by joining our community at thedailyAIshow.com. All right. So let's say you're a drug discovery lab. You know which protein is driving a disease. And if you don't know, a protein is basically a tiny machine inside cells that does a specific job. So you've heard of AlphaFold, folding proteins, things like that. And you even have its 3D structure, which is like knowing the exact shape of that machine. But every time you try to design a drug to stick to it, nothing works. In pharma, people often call these undruggable targets. That just means this protein really matters for the disease, but none of our usual drug tricks can hit it in a clean way. A team at MIT and several partner labs just built an AI model aimed straight at that frustration. It's called Boltz Gen. Its job is to design new protein binders for hard targets. A binder is a molecule that latches onto a specific target in the body. If you can get a binder that sticks tightly and only where you want, you have the starting point for many modern drugs like antibodies or engineered proteins. So, what does the AI do? BoltzGen is a generative model. That means it does not just label the data, it creates new examples that look physically realistic. You feed it the 3D structure of the target. Think of that as giving the AI a detailed map of the protein surface. You can also give it a few design hints like stay small or attach here. In return, BoltzGen proposes brand new protein shapes and amino acid sequences. An amino acid sequence is just the letter string that tells a protein how to fold. The model tries to pick sequences that will fold up into a stable shape and hug the target at the right spots. So the system takes, here's the thing we want to hit, and answers with, here's some new molecules that look like they could hit it. This sits in the very front of drug discovery pipeline. Instead of screening millions of random molecules in the lab and hoping something sticks, you let AI generate a small, smarter list of candidates first. The key question is, does any of this actually work in the real world? Well, the team at MIT didn't stop at simulations. They picked 26 different targets and ran 8 experimental campaigns in real labs. That means they actually made some of the AI's designs and tested them in experiments. On several easier, well-studied targets, the AI designs worked about 80% of the time. And so that's a big upgrade over throw a huge library at the wall and see what happens. More interesting are the hard cases. On 9 new, very challenging targets, they decided to be strict. They only allowed themselves 15 AI designs per target. And even with that limit, they ended up with very tight binders for 6 of the 9 targets. You will sometimes see this described as nanomolar affinity. And all that means is the binder still grabs the target very strongly, even when the binder is present in tiny concentration. Tiny here means billionths of a mole per liter. Now, this is not just AI drew some pretty molecules on the screen. This is suggested models, labs built them, and quite a few worked well in the tests. So let's take a look at BoltzGen under the hood. BoltzGen is an all-atom model, which means it keeps track of where each atom sits in the 3D space, not just a rough cartoon of a protein. It learns by doing several related tasks at once. One, predicting how proteins fold from their sequences, filling in missing pieces of protein structures, so it has to guess realistic shapes, and then designing binders that fit onto known targets. By juggling all those jobs, it picks up habits from real chemistry and physics. It learns, for example, that certain shapes are stable, or that some patterns of changes in atoms make good binding surfaces. The team also uses filters after the generation. They throw out designs that look like they won't fold, or they make ugly clashes between atoms, or that they don't seem to interact well with the target. The important detail is they release the code publicly. So in principle, any lab with enough computing power and structural data can try similar workflows. Now, this is all still very early. So there's a few things that we have to pay attention to. So first, this comes as a preprint. It's not a fully peer-reviewed paper yet. We've talked in the past how papers coming in from archive and things like that are not peer review, and then they're changing their CS policy so that only peer reviewed papers come in because there's this been huge influx of AI processed or AI in the process of making and reviewing those papers. So just highlight that this is a preprint. That means it hasn't been peer review. All right. Second, binding is only step 1 in making any medicine. So BoltzGen won't tell you if it's safe on animals or humans, how long or how it will survive in the body, and can they make it cheaply and reliable. All right, so this is just that first stage. what that means is still need human expertise, animal studies, clinical trials, and all of the normal steps. Third, the model has a training data bias. In some tests, it kept spitting out designs that look like a very common protein family. Basically, it was leaning on its comfort zone. And the team had to rebalance the data to reduce that effect. But this kind of bias never disappears completely. Fourth, the experiments are impressive, but still limited. They were done in collaborating labs and the known team that know the team and the tools. We've not seen a random lab on the other side of the world download the code and run their own pipeline for their own targets and report similar successes. So it's still fragile and young, but very promising. So let's zoom out and take a look at how does this fit in the larger AI and science picture. So at the micro level, inside drug discovery, this is another attack on a very specific pain point, finding first-generation binders for hard disease targets. At the meso level, across biology and chemistry, it joins a wave of models that do not just read the data, they propose new things. I believe in the previous weeks highlighted materials science and work for fusion reactors in magnetic fields and those kinds of rare earth materials and testing for other materials. And at the micro or macro level, this points a shift to how we're going to be doing science. So for decades, a lot of lab work's been brute force, right? Try a big library, screen everything, then narrow it down. So the pattern here is a little different. We ask the model what is the most promising thing to test, then spend that lab time on that shorter list. And that changes who or what decides what to test next. There's also quite an economic story underneath this, right? So tools like Boltzgen raise the question, if strong open models for molecule design keep arriving, what does that do to companies built on selling this as a proprietary service? Because there's been quite a few announcements over the last few months where their whole proposition is to build AI scientists, right? And get through this design and testing part of the system, right? And what does this do for smaller labs that suddenly get access to this kind of design power? We should also take a look at possible friction and risk, right? So there's data and bias. So whichever targets were well represented in the training data will get better AI help. Targets tied to neglected diseases may lag behind, which could amplify existing health gaps. Reproducibility, the code being open, is great, but reproducing the wet lab success needs money, time, and specific skills, and not every lab has that. The human skills. If AI systems take over more of the messy trial and error, we might train fewer people in that hands-on intuition. Maybe scientists spend more time on asking good questions and stitching results together, and maybe they lose some of the feel for how experiments fail. And then safety and governance, of course. The same tools that design helpful binders could, in theory, be steered towards harmful targets. Right now, most guardrails are social institutional, norms in biology, review boards, legal barriers, and the technical guardrails inside the AI itself are still pretty light. So the question I leave is if tools like this get good at deciding what to test next, what do you think the core job of a human scientist should be 10 years from now? Thoughts? Ideas? Right? So we've got AI. This is the latest in various sciences that we've talked about in the past. Like I said, materials design, chemistry, all those kinds of things. But this is the biological side of things. We want to, AI is helping, or at least from this preprint paper from MIT, that the AI they've designed is pushing forward that first step of filtering through all of the mundane tasks. This seems to be the trend based on these different scientific advancements in using AI in those various science fields, about AI doing that first step. So we've seen in other fields, business and things like that, that humans seem to be taking on a more curator role in this. And anything that is the mundane tasks, the mundane part of science in this case, AI is taking more and more of that responsibility, giving us a more focused direction to go into. So is what's happening to people in their skill set and becoming more of AI managers for like AI agents, is that also something that you all see happening to scientists or in some aspect like that? Possible? Maybe. All right. Well, that is pretty much what my AI and science story for today. And so that's something, a question to think about and discuss when you continue the conversation in our community at thedailyAIshow.com. Before I wrap up, Andy, was there any announcements or anything that you wanted to mention?
Nope.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. So, in closing, I want to thank everybody in the chat and everyone watching a little later. If you want to keep the discussion going, like I said, join our community at thedailyashowcommunity.com. If you found this helpful, please hit the things that make the ding and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Until next time, keep your minds and your hearts open. Aloha.